Hey, what's going on, fellow Age Groupies? Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast. I am Mike Ergo, and along with my co-host Lindsay Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective. We talk about how to have fun along the way and stop taking ourselves so seriously. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to hit us up at agegroupies@gmail.com. And if you all like the show, leave us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate it all. It helps us to reach a wider audience. Hey, today's episode is an interview with Gibbs. He's a runner and triathlete and author of the book, My Coworkers Think I'm a Pro. The book's his account of his quest for a podium finish in an Ironman 70.3 World Championship, and it's anything but a how-to guide on becoming a champion. He hilariously and touchingly weaves together stories of his own madman pursuits as he pushes himself to his limits, physically, mentally, and emotionally. In a funny, self-deprecating way, he describes what goes through his mind as he transforms from neophyte Ironman competitor to a seasoned 10th place finisher at the World Championship level. I had a lot of fun talking with Brock. I know I say this a lot, but there's something about talking to an author and you really see that their personality comes out in their book. And he's a funny dude, really funny guy, and he's fast. He's pretty modest about how fast he is. A lot of good stories about growing up and just his in-between and how he got into the sport. So you guys are going to like it. Go find the book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or up in Canada, it's in chapters. You can get it in paperback or you can get it in Kindle, which I did. Anyways, guys, you're going to enjoy it, so let's get to the episode. Anyways, Brock Gibbs, welcome to Age Groupies, man. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so how is it where you are? You said things are relatively clean. People are not restricted and probably having fun, enjoying the summer.
Yeah, we've opened up pretty much completely up here in Quebec. People are, there's some restrictions like in restaurants and stuff. You still got to socially distance and masks are mandatory indoors in public places. But other than that, in terms of training and whatnot, it's never had to stop doing that. I was able to do that outside since the beginning.
That's great. So all your pools are open and you're...
No, the pools are not open yet. They open, the outdoor pools are open, but there's no lap swimming in those. It's just recreation.
Oh, okay.
And the indoor pools open August 17th.
Oh, man.
And I figured I'm not going to, all my races have been canceled. So I haven't even been in the pool since March 12th. And I figured I'm not racing until next year anyway. And the swim isn't exactly my favorite part. So I've just been running and biking.
Running and biking, that describes, I think, most people's experience. And you do a lot of your biking outdoors? Are you an indoor trainer kind of guy or what?
In the mornings, first thing in the morning, I always hop on the bike for about an hour, do a fat burning workout fasted. And then in the afternoon, if it's a bike day, I'll go longer, like 65 to 120 kilometers, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So your training is coming along. But like you said, we don't have anything going on really till next year. What races did you have going on for this year that got canceled or postponed?
My first one was going to be 70.3 Muncie in Indiana. And then I was going to be doing the full Ironman in Santa Rosa again. And that was the one I was really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And Maine, 70.3 Maine, and then the World Championship in New Zealand, which was the first one to sort of be postponed and canceled. We still don't know what's going on with that one.
Yeah, I know. That's a weird thing for the championships, because then, what do? Do you have two the next year or what? So I think everyone's kind of wondering, as imagine everybody in Ironman is kind of wondering how they're going to handle that. But
yeah, it must be tough for them though. A lot of people are complaining and I get it. I mean, I'm losing potentially a lot of money too, and I'm only a teacher. But at the same time, what are they supposed to do? It's something this has never happened before. It's not like and it's been that way with everything. Even at school, we're trying to figure out how we're going to teach, and this when it just started and in the fall, and there's no way to do it. Nobody knows. It hasn't happened before, so there's no correct way to do anything. We just got to live with it and adjust.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's really I think I'm tired of hearing the phrases unprecedented times, in these times of uncertainty and all the other catchphrases, but it really is. we have we don't know what we're doing. Some countries more than most, but we're trying to figure this whole thing out. So yeah, I think until then, it looks like virtual racing, self-supported racing, and just kind of going along at not too hard a clip is really the prescription of the day.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But I'm kind of motivated anyway. It's weird to be training with nothing to be training for.
Yeah.
But we all do this because it's fun, I assume, because it's too hard to do if you don't enjoy it. So, I mean, I love going on my bike every day, and I really enjoy running. So, hey, just do what you love doing.
I'm with you. I think if you can get your mind past the fact that you are exercising to be there in the moment, because it makes your body feel good, even if it hurts at the time, then you can get into it. So how'd you get into the sport? I know you had I've been reading through your book, and we'll talk about a lot about that, but I know you had various ways of getting into running, biking, swimming, which I've been laughing about this morning reading.
Yeah, well, for triathlon, for me, it was just, as I say in the book, I was really interested in cycling. I'd never done cycling before, and it's not a big thing where I come from. I'm from Quebec, so it's hockey, it's football, and it used to be baseball before the Expos left.
Yeah.
And then I started reading about cycling, and I thought, man, this is so interesting. It's so cool. I would really love to do a cycling race. But I was too stupid to figure that there was cycling races for adults out there. I didn't know, which is kind of dumb because there's running races and there's everything else. And I thought about, well, the only cycling race that I think I'm allowed to do is the middle bit of triathlon. So I figured, I guess I got to do triathlon, which means I'm going to have to learn how to swim, but triathlon's the way to do it. So that's how I got into it. And my first race was, I found the shortest, easiest race that I could find was in Connecticut. And it went really well, except for the swim, which was just god awful, but that's how I got into the sport.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the cold water is a shock to you, growing up where you did. Small town in Quebec, you guys had cold river water and cold outdoor pools and all that. But what about the swim was hard for you first try?
It's weird because, like you said, I was a canoeist when I grew up. So we were in the water all the time, and I always swam. But I never wore a wetsuit before. And and I bought a wetsuit, never tried it on other than in the store, only put it on up to my waist. Then I got to Connecticut, put the wetsuit on, zipped it all the way up to the top, and it was, I couldn't, it was really constricting. It felt super weird. I felt very claustrophobic. And then I got into the water, and that just got worse and worse and worse. And the water was full of jellyfish, and I just panicked. And it was an experience I've never had before. I mean, I've been nervous for lots of things, lots of sporting events, lots of school things, lots of work interviews and stuff like that. But this was something that I had never, ever felt before. I couldn't control it. I couldn't get myself on top of it. It was just so hard.
That's the difference between being nervous and panic. It's just a whole nother level, and you describe it well. It's not just being nervous. It's your brain forgets how to think, essentially. I've talked to a lot of swimmers, my brother-in-law included. We did one of our first tries together, and he was an accomplished swimmer in high school and swam in college, and then his first time wearing a wetsuit, and we're in warm, sunny San Diego waters, started having little issues with panic because of the experience of the suit and everybody else around.
Yeah, it just felt it felt foreign, and again, the whole time I was able to think. I was able to try and tell myself, this is stupid. There's no reason for you to feel this way, but I still couldn't control it. You know what I mean? It was just, I knew it was wrong. I knew I should be able to get over it, but I couldn't. And I didn't for the entire race. I entered the water, did the whole race, the whole swim, exited the water, and only then was I able to get over it.
Yeah, wow.
It didn't happen during the race at all.
Yeah, and then the bike and the swim, so it subsided and you were able to kind of get back in a groove?
Yeah, as soon as I got out of the water, it was like being a hostage and being let go. You know what I mean? It was okay. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm free. Everything else felt fantastic because I was no longer in the water.
Well, that's good, because I was going to say, how do you stick with a sport when it's going to suck that badly?
Yeah, I didn't know when I was even before the horn went off to start the swim. I had done the warm up, and that's when I started to panic. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. This is I'm not even going to finish my first race, so I'm not going to be a triathlete. But then I got on the bike, and all that went away until the next race, and I had to swim again.
Yeah. So has swimming got it any easier for you going on?
Yeah, now it's actually something I look forward to in training, which I didn't before, and I look forward to it now. And in a race, I don't even think about it anymore. I used to line up way over on the left, way away from everybody else. I looked like an idiot. There was a pack of swimmers, and then me way over next to the motorboats and stuff.
Yeah.
But now I start off there just so that I can get going, but I end up moving into the pack usually.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book some. What gave you the inspiration to write the book?
Well, the main thing was like when I talked about getting into cycling, I had read every book there was on cycling. There was nothing out there that I hadn't read. Then I got into triathlon, and I tried to do the same thing, read every book there was on triathlon. But the only things I could find were training logs and training manuals and how to do this and how to do that. And that's all fine and great, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to read something that was entertaining, something that I could look at, read, and say, yeah, I've done that. I've experienced that. That's kind of cool. But there wasn't anything that I could find. So I figured, I'd been telling people at work stories of my races and stories of my past, and they all seemed to like the story. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to put it down.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's so many training manuals, but it doesn't really capture the human experience of this, like the nerves, the fears, the joys, the regrets, the triumphs, all of these things.
Yeah, they're great. All of those manuals are, first of all, they're all different, but they're good. It's just they're not like, the main thing I wanted to do is I wanted to walk into an airport on my way to a race, go to the bookstore, pick up a book that I could read on the airplane and enjoy myself. No one wants to read a training manual on an airplane. It's
not at all.
It's kind of dull. And I figured the other thing was you could get most of the training stuff online. You don't even have to buy a book. But that's what I wanted to do with the book.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, you have an original take on a lot of things. First of all, I love the fact that your book starts off going fuck. I knew like right off the bat I was going to be hooked. I was like, all right, this guy gets it. I'm going to enjoy this.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the other thing I wanted. I wanted other people to read it and say, man, I've done that before. And with the fuck, that's how I felt in that race in Lake Placid. It was just, and I was looking around and I could see there were other people fuck, and just right along with me. Yes. So I thought, I can't be the only one. There's other people suffering here. And that's how I felt. Like I say in the book, it's just like, I'm not stupid. I'm not a dumb guy, but my entire vocabulary was distilled to that one word. I couldn't think of anything else to say. That's just what came out.
Well, it captures the experience great. And I think there's a lot of temptation, especially in the age of Instagram and Facebook, to really dress up our own experience and kind of sanitize it. But yeah, you chop that shit right down and get to the heart of it. So yeah, how did you decide on the route you were going to take to tell your story?
Well, what I did was I was at my son's soccer practice, and I was watching it. It was getting kind of dull, and I had my laptop with me. I was working on lesson plans for school, and I said, I've been wanting to start this book, so I just said, okay, well, let's go. And I started, and the first sentence that you see in the book, I wrote that day sitting down watching soccer practice, and that's the only sentence in the entire book that wasn't changed.
Really?
Everything else, like all 300 pages, have been rewritten 1,000 times. And as I started writing it, I finished that section on Lake Placid, and then I was like, okay, well, I got nothing left. I'm done. In fact, that's everything I know about triathlon is out. I said, but there's got to be more to say. So, and as I reread it, I was reminded of things from my past. And I thought, well, what if I incorporate some of those stories into the way I tell the story about triathlon? And I don't know if you've noticed after reading the book that all the stories that I talk about that are not triathlon related have a theme And that
Yes.
theme is related in the next thing I talk about when it comes to triathlon, or what comes just before. So the hardships I felt at home or in the rest of my life, I felt the same sort of thing in triathlon.
Yeah, I felt my heart kind of tug when I read this very powerful story about you almost getting your favorite bike for your birthday. Yeah,
yeah.
rough.
I've gotten a lot of flack from my brother recently there, but
Yeah.
but he doesn't deny that it happened, and it did happen.
Mike here. I want to talk to you about UCAN Superstarch. UCAN is what I consume on the race course and for long or intense training sessions. Now, it's different than any sports nutrition out there because they use superstarch. Superstarch is a complex carbohydrate that doesn't spike blood sugar, delivering a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream. Stable blood sugar provides steady energy to both the muscles and the brain and controls cravings caused by blood sugar lows. I recently used this to complete the Pandemic Man 70.3 using only UCAN, and let me tell you guys, I was surprised by how well it worked. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't need to use any gels, anything, just UCAN. And I felt great. I didn't feel bloated, didn't feel hungry, didn't have any of those intense cravings I get on the race course a lot. So I want you to try it out too. Learn about why you should fuel the pursuit with UCAN and save 10% on all your orders by using the link in the show notes or entering the promo code UCANInspireMe at checkout. That's UCANINSPIREME at checkout. Thanks. Yeah, and then I think one of my favorites so far is one of your recounting of the downhill race with your buddies in the tandem bike who crashed pretty hard. I mean, yeah. It's like you had it sounds like a pretty exciting childhood that way. Injuries always around the corner.
Always. And that's the cool thing about the book. The people I've spoken to, both people that I know who have read it and people that I don't know who have read the book, and they've contacted me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They all say the same thing: is that it was just like that where I lived too. We had friends like that, and that's how we grew up racing our bikes and rough and tumble childhood. And again, I figured I can't be the only person who's experienced these types of things.
No,
so everybody's done it.
It's very relatable and it's hilarious because I found myself laughing pretty hard just trying to imagine the scene of someone picking up their piece of their lip like a gummy worm.
yeah, that was so cool because it was full of dirt, and my friend just sort of spun it around and like, found it.
Here's your lip, brother.
Here's your lip, and they put it on in a cooler and they reattached it at the hospital. So,
oh man, that had to look at least a little bit fucked up though when they put it back
on.
It
was pretty cool actually. Well, those things when you're a kid, it's both gross and really cool at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the bike that they were riding wasn't a tandem bike. They were just riding in tandem. Like I'm sure a lot of people, he was just sitting on the handlebars. You knew something was going to happen. And of course it did.
It's a recipe for disaster that, I mean, some of us can only find out through the pain of failure.
Yeah, exactly.
What I like about it too is some people maybe had the experience of growing up on a cycling team or something that's really pedicured, but you had a good old fashioned North American, upbringing. Go ahead.
That's the way you learn how to do stuff. I remember my football coach growing up. We were small town football, but we were really good because we were well coached because the coach was tough and he didn't tolerate anybody who wasn't. And if your football helmet didn't fit, it looked like a tiny cereal bowl on your head. He just pounded on your head and you couldn't take it off till the next game because it was just on there for good. So you had to adapt, and that's what you do in triathlon as well, right? Not every race goes exactly the way you plan. Other people cut you off or something happens. You got to adapt. You got a flat tire. You got to figure out what to do and move on.
There's something nice about being forced into it. And it's a lot of parallels into what we're facing now with this global pandemic is that people have been forced into being creative and figuring things out, even though at the time it really sucks to have to get out of your comfort zone and figure out what to do and adapt.
Absolutely. You just going to the grocery store is something all new. But like you just said, It does suck. There's no question about it. There's nothing good about it, but it is forcing everybody to think outside the box, if you will, and figure out a way to get through it. Because like in, everything in life, you're gonna get through it. It's just you got to figure out how to get through it. And I like that part of it because it's people are forced to be a little bit more creative than normal, and
Yeah.
a bunch of years ago we had it doesn't happen very often here, but we had an ice storm, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Same thing kind of happened. There was no power in the middle of the winter for 3 weeks, and people had to adapt, and the grocery stores weren't open. They were stuck in their houses. So we came together as a community. There's no TV to watch, there's no radio, no nothing. So you figure out what to do, and it brings people together. I think this is doing the same thing, theoretically bringing people together, because we can't be together, but we're working together as a community, as a nation, as the world, frankly. We gotta figure this out.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing about that is, like you said, the only difference is we can't physically be together in a lot of situations. But other than that, there's very similar where we're having to be creative and at least meet together online and figure out the solution. So going back to your endurance sports career, when did you know that you were fast? Because you slayed your first marathon and had no idea until afterwards.
Yeah, I guess that's when I've realized that I was fast. Before that, I had done a bunch of 10K races and stuff like that when I lived in Vancouver. And again, I didn't know I was fast. I just knew I was faster than my best friend.
Yeah, okay.
Who's the guy that got me into racing. And we'd go training together, and then, okay, let's do a race. And I had to wait for him at the end. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm faster than him, but that does, I don't know. I don't know what that means, right?
Mm-hmm. It's only just relative to your friend.
Exactly. Same thing with the marathon. I didn't know. I knew I wanted to qualify for Boston, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that you had to qualify somehow. So I ran the best I could, and I finished in less than 3 hours, which again, I don't know. I didn't know that was good. I assumed because I felt so bad after the race that must be terrible.
Yeah,
but it turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it turned out to be very good. I remember that as like what you were 2:56.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was it was better than my brother did, which was kind of, I thought he was ahead of me the whole time. He just had a really bad day though. He's pretty fast too.
So did you assume that when people finished, if they had a good race, they'd be feeling great and in no pain?
Well, yeah, when you watch events on TV, you watch the Olympics, the guy that wins or the woman that wins, they don't look terrible.
Right. Exactly.
It's the person who comes in second and beyond. They're all folded over and grabbing their hamstrings and all kinds of stuff. But the winner feels great. Usain Bolt trots around the thing with a flag around his back, and he looks fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think it is about, I mean, you talk about this in your book, but what do you think it is about endurance sports and pain and suffering that make it such a necessary part of the sport?
Well, I think that some of us know it and some of us don't, but I think that the reason we're drawn to the sport is because of the pain, for whatever reason. I remember Mark McCormick once saying that's the drug that draws us to the sport. No one talks about when you finish a race like Santa Rosa, the full Ironman. It's tough. It's tough for everybody. No one says, wow, I was flying at mile 12 on the bike. I just felt great. No one talks about that. Maybe eventually. The first thing everybody talks about was when I hit 30K on the run, I was toast. I didn't think I was going to finish. I was hurting, but they did finish, right? So that's the one thing that everybody wants to talk about is that pain. And I think that that's part of the reason when things are easy, you don't, there's no feeling to it, right? When it hurts, you can definitely physically, tactically feel something's going on, whether it's good or bad, and it's usually bad. So that it makes you feel sort of alive. And, there's people, I'm a teacher, and you have students who hurt themselves on purpose just to feel alive, right? So I think that there's kind of some of that with endurance sports. We want to feel that pain. Also, because it hurts so much and you push through it, man, does that ever feel good?
Yeah,
there's wow, I did it.
That accomplishment, especially when the pain is so bad that you really want to quit and you say, okay, maybe just a few more steps and a few more steps. What do you
And
think?
that's part of what makes the endurance sports community so good, because I know you felt that pain before, because
Oh
you're an
yeah.
Ironman, so I can talk to you about it. But when I go to work and then people ask me, so how was that race you did? And I tell them, oh man, at kilometer 30, I thought I was going to die. They can't relate. And I've done a couple of races that I didn't finish, long ultras. And, I'll go back and say I had to, I bailed out at 80K. And I've had people say, what, you just stopped running? You quit? Yeah, well, dude, you try to run 80K and see
Yeah,
it was rough.
exactly.
I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, you got 80 kilometers to feel that before you make that decision. So it's not like you're like, I'll call it a day.
Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough for right now. Maybe we'll do this next week. So what are the kind of looks you get from people like at work when you're telling them your stories about racing, people who haven't done this? What are the reactions?
Yeah, that's pretty much everybody too.
Yeah.
Usually they're kind of stunned at first, because they're trying to make the relationship to the distances to what they know. And so you say, well, you always ask how long is it? So you tell them the distances, and it's like, and you can see the computer working in their head. But wait, like, I find driving that far to be tedious, and you're doing it on a bike.
Exactly.
And then they always ask you, well, okay, so you do the swim, then how much rest do you get before you have to start the bike? And it's like, well, you can take as much as you want, but none is what you're really looking for.
None.
None. Like, there's no rest periods. You don't take a day off in between, and they can't comprehend the amount of distance that we cover. And even when they sort of figure, okay, well, how far is that? And you say, well, it's the distance from like my house to downtown Montreal. And then, oh, really? You run all of that? And you say, yeah. But then they can't relate anyway, because a lot of them have never, run more than 3 kilometers, and they don't get it,
Yeah, my experience with these kind of situations is seeing people either their eyes glaze over because it's past the point of understanding, or they just get more and more horrified and their jaws drop a little bit more, and you can see them wanting to ask the question, why the fuck are you doing this?
Yeah, like, who's chasing you?
Yeah, exactly. What insane reason do you have to like pay money to do this?
Yeah, and that's the other thing they ask you. So, like, do you win anything? Well, no. In fact, I pay $1,000 to do it, just to enter the race. That's not the travel and everything else. That's when they really glaze over and they look at you and figure you're stupid.
Yeah, so you're paying to go somewhere much slower that you could get in a car, and then you're paying money to do all this, and you're telling us how miserable it is and how hard it is and how deep you have to dig.
Yeah. But those are the parts that I'm happy that I experience it, and I feel bad for them that they will never experience it, because, like they say, who's chasing you? No one's physically chasing you, but all of us are running away from something. At least I am. I feel that way, and in the race, I'm leaving bad stuff behind and moving towards something better all the time in every single race.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I share that point of view that I don't envy people who will never experience getting to that level of discomfort, because it really gives you the opportunity to be fully present. And you talk about that in the book some. That's part of that is the point. You get to that point where you don't have to worry about other things going on right now, because maybe your knees hurt so bad that you are right there in the moment.
Absolutely. And it doesn't happen in every race. Most of the races I do, I am trying to beat this guy and beat that guy and finish on the podium, and that's the goal. But the best races, the one where you feel the best, even though it hurts, are the ones where you reach a point where I don't care. I don't care if I don't finish on the podium. I don't care if that guy over there passes me. It doesn't matter. I'm right now is all I need. It's perfect. I just want to keep going. If I could keep this going for the rest of my life, I'd be a happy man.
I usually find that somewhere on the run. If I find it during a race, it's and for me, it's trying to beat a personal best, and kind of doing the math that we all do, especially on the longer courses. And we're like, okay, at this pace, with that much time in transition, I'm probably looking at this kind of a time and looking at how fast you're going to have to go to really make the time you want to make.
Yeah. And for me, it's for most of the world, it's made all the more difficult when we race in the US because everything's in miles, right? And
that really gums it up.
That's a number that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, okay, well, 4 miles left. Oh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But there's only 4 of them. It can't be that far. It's like, oh my God, this takes forever.
They're longer than we thought.
I remember one guy coming, I was running with him in Santa Rosa, and he said, "You look like you're going pretty well. Do you mind if I stay with you?" And I said, sure. I welcome the company. And then he asked me what my pace was. I said, well, I'm doing about 5 minutes. Like I'm going about a 5-minute pace. And he's like, are you mental? How can you do a 5 minute per mile fair? No. Kilometers,
brother.
No idea. Probably half an hour. I don't know.
Yeah. That's and then for those of us here in the U.S. to make that mental journey to kilometers can be pretty tough. I'm fortunate enough to have a coach from Australia, so I've gotten used to the pace in kilometers.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, what have been some of your favorite races?
My favorite race is probably Mont Tremblant. And it's not because it's at home. In fact, I state this in the book, when I first raced the Mont Tremblant, I was at the World Championships, and I was nonplussed that it was going to be there, because for me, a World Championship is somewhere where you travel really far and it's super exotic. But I'm from here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a couple hours away from Mont Tremblant, and I live that sort of culture every day of my life. I didn't think it was going to be great, but
it's not exotic.
I got there and it's like, man, even though I'd been there before skiing, but not as a race, I'd never been there in the summer. It was just the course is perfect. The organization is better than anywhere else I've ever seen. It's just the Mont Tremblant itself has become like a hub for Ironman racing. Mm-hmm. Everything there is set up there's permanent year-round training facilities just for Ironman athletes.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. The roads are closed and they're like a velvety path. The run is off. It's not on the road, most of it. It's an out and back. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So the roads are maybe polar opposite from what you experienced in Santa Rosa, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah. Santa Rosa, please don't get a flat. Please don't get a flat.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that good at changing flats. But Santa Rosa is another one of, for me, that's really, really far away.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done the half there, I've done the full there, and I was going to do the full there this year as well. I really, really love that race also. I like the fact that you start in one place and you finish in another.
Yes.
It's kind of cool. It's a bit of a pain in the butt for people following you.
Yeah.
Because you got to bus out in the morning, but I really like that. The scenery is so pretty too.
Oh,
it's very different from what I'm used to, which I like.
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny. So for me, this is, the local race in Santa Rosa. So I had that same experience of like, well, we'll see how it is. But the energy that I think we all bring together as the community of athletes, I dig that so much, especially seeing people from coming far away, and we're all looking at each other, like registering and doing the obligatory lap through all the Ironman Village and the stuff we probably shouldn't buy, but maybe want to.
Yeah. No, yeah, we have that. You have that everywhere, man. But Santa Rosa is cool because there's that square in the middle of town where the village is like that. There's a place in the middle where it's like a university campus, and that's the quad in the middle.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of congregates. You do your thing on the outside, get your bike tuned up here, go buy something you don't need over there. And then
exactly.
And talk to people that you're never going to talk to again. And have a great conversation. And they're from New Zealand, and say, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, that there's something really neat about this international community that comes together. So you got Mont Tremblant. What's been the race that stands out to you as being just distinctly unique, or being an experience of a lifetime?
Well, actually, this year, last year, the World Championships in Nice,
Mm.
France, were pretty cool. Because again, it's quite exotic. The course was fantastic. I should not have used a TT bike
Yeah,
uh, for
that's
that
what I
race,
hear.
and I should have known that because I had done another really fabulous race last summer in Alpe d'Huez in the Alps in France. That was a hard race. Like you finish, it's a 124-kilometer bike ride, and the last 13 kilometers are up the Alpe d'Huez, just like in the Tour de France,
Ooh,
21 switchbacks, and it's brutal.
yeah.
The whole day starts off. It's kind of weird. That race was cool because you stay in Alpe d'Huez at the top of the village, and the start is 30 kilometers away. That's the swim start, which was in 15 degrees Celsius water. But you have to ride your bike to the start. So you ride 30 kilometers before the race even starts. It's all downhill, but it's still you're riding 30K.
Yeah, that's a
And,
lot.
and then you do the bike. It's the only it's not the only one, but it's the most recent triathlon that I got to this T2, and I told myself that I'm not doing the run. I can't. Like, there's no way I can do the run.
Really?
I physically can't do it. But I sat down, and I figured, I've come to France. You can't not finish this race. So I sat down for a full 10 minutes, drank 2 bottles of Gatorade, and figured, okay, I'll walk the run. And ended up running it, and it was a great run because it's at altitude, it's all on trails. It was beautiful. I finished it and ended up being third in
No
my age
kidding.
category, of course.
Yeah, so there must have been a lot of people who were hurting just
Oh,
because
yeah, that
that
was a
sounds
world
brutal
of
on the
hurt.
legs.
Yeah, yeah, it was terrible. And it's something that you want to do because I watch the Tour de France every year, and I see that climb, and it's the switchbacks and all the battles that have happened historically. I pictured myself in them, but you get to the last couple of switchbacks, and you've had this feeling before, I'm sure. It's when you say to yourself, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah, what am I
this is
doing?
this is like, there's nobody's chasing me. There's no cheetah out there that's going to eat me. If just stop.
Yeah.
But again, then there's another switch that happens. So, well, that's why you have to finish it. That's why you got to do it, because it hurts.
Oh, completely. Yeah, and like you said, the mastery that you feel afterwards is is indescribable. So let's talk about the title of your book. My coworkers think I'm a pro. Is that because they assume that you're doing all of this, that you must be sponsored or getting paid or making money doing this?
Yeah, mostly because, first of all, like we were saying before, they ask you about the types of races you do, and they just can't believe that anyone would do that for free, right? So they assume that you're getting paid to do it, and the way they kind of treat you, like, well, that you have to be a professional.
You got to be.
The races are in exotic places. You get on an airplane to go do a race. I mean, that's only professional people do that. And then when they talk to other people, they introduce you as, this is my triathlete friend. So not a phys ed teacher or a coworker.
Right.
This is, and they assume that I'm professional. It's weird, actually. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's just a race. It's just something that I do.
It's hard for people to understand who aren't part of it what would drive somebody to fly, halfway around the world to go do something that most people wouldn't want to do in their hometown.
Exactly. And like you said before, paying all the money to do it, they do assume that there's got to be some sort of financial incentive. It would be great if I did have sponsors and everything. I mean, but
Right, exactly. That make things a lot easier for a lot of us to have people paying our way. But I guess it just speaks to the magnitude of how important it is to us to be able to feel the pain and feel the accomplishment of pushing through that pain. And
absolutely.
I don't think you can really describe it in a way that's going to make sense to people unless they do it outside of how you've written about it, because you got to be very creative and very descriptive in how you talk about these things I think, to inspire someone to try to get to that level of suffering.
Yeah, and that goes back to the fuck at the beginning, because
Yes.
people haven't, not a lot of people have experienced endurance sports or that type of physical pain, but they've gone through something, even if it's just raking the leaves on the lawn and they're exhausted from doing it. They feel that sort of exhaustion and fed up sort of feeling. So when I wrote the book, I wanted to relate that to people. And if I could make myself sound like a hero and sugarcoat it, and it was easy, and I'm Superman, but that's not relatable to people. And I wanted the book to be relatable to people who aren't triathletes. And I'm getting a lot of that from people who have read it. Like, I'm not an athlete at all, and I really like the book because it's relatable. It's something that they can understand.
It's a bridge. It's a bridge from.
They don't understand the terminology, like what is transition. They don't even know what that is. But it doesn't matter. They kind of figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. There's enough context to where they can either look it up on their phone or just like understand what it is through the context of it. I think you're right there. It's that bridge of being relatable, sharing, being vulnerable, sharing your own, I don't know what you call it, weakness or doubts or things that wouldn't make, the cover of like Men's Health, but, that really bridges the gap between people like us in the sport and then people who have no idea why we do this, but they watch it and they're like, well, there's a lot of people signing up for this shit, so there must be something to it because they keep coming back every year.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted them to understand, that it's just, you do your thing. This is what I do. And that's another reason why I actually wrote the book, was so that all these people that I actually know who ask me questions all the time, well, now you don't have to ask me questions. It's all in the book.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it interesting for them.
Yeah. Well done with that. How long did it take you to write the whole thing?
Took me about a little over a year and a half, from start to finished product, that was pretty much constant the whole time. Obviously I have a full-time job, so I gotta write in between. If I have a period off at school, then I would hit the computer and start writing.
Yeah. I was about to be even more impressed to hit the typewriter.
Yeah. And like I said, I was writing it during my son's soccer practices and stuff like that. Anytime there was some spare time that wasn't work or training or sleeping, I was taking notes or writing the book.
Yeah, as it was coming out and you were doing your revised editions and cleaning things up or moving them around, were you having experiences racing that you wanted to throw in but that didn't quite fit in the book?
Yeah, like all of last summer. I would have loved to have, like I just told you about the race at Alpe d'Huez. That's not in the book. That'll be in the next book. But yeah, I was experiencing that stuff, and I was writing about stuff that had happened before. And yeah, I was kind of thinking, should I wedge this in somewhere? And I actually did, and it's not in there anymore. A lot of that stuff was in there, and it didn't fit because I was much more
to take it out.
Yeah, I was much more experienced and accomplished, I guess, last summer, and the book doesn't sound like that, and it didn't fit. There were lots of things. This book, if I didn't cut anything, it would have been about 1,000 pages long. And you can't, obviously you can't do that. It's amazing how hard writing a book is. It's rewarding and I loved doing it, but it's really difficult to try and figure out a way to get the things that are in your head onto paper in a way that people will find interesting.
Right.
I can write forever, but if it's boring garble, then no one's going to read it. And that's what I want. I want everybody to read it.
Exactly. Like when you're doing that in the verbal form and conversation, that's when you notice people start to look at their watch or look around trying to feel like, how do I get out of this conversation?
Exactly. Trying to backpedal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want people to backpedal from the book. The best compliment I've had from several people is I started to read the book, and before I knew it, I was 120 pages in.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a great compliment. When someone can lose time.
Yeah. They're not just reading it on a toilet to pass time,
Yeah, that's a great point. So you mentioned then you alluded you might be writing a second book. You You have plans for that, and what's going to be the focus of it?
It'll be similar to this one. I've already started taking notes, which is part of the 1.5 year process that I just spoke about. You do a lot of note taking, just observations. Like I'll go on a training ride today, and if something catches my eye, as soon as I get home, I'll write it down, and I go back to it. Some of it won't make it into the book, some of it will. But yeah, it's going to be similar to the one I just wrote. But I'm going to try to make it more themed. The chapters will have themes related to triathlon and life at the same time.
Well, I like it.
Similar structure.
Where can people find your book and what you're up to?
The book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in the States. And in Canada, it's available digitally at Chapters. But Amazon's the best place to find the book. And I'm going to be starting up a blog probably in the next couple of weeks. I've been writing, keep practicing my writing in blog form, and I'm going to actually start it up on a website in the next couple of weeks so that people can read stuff there.
Excellent. So if you have a link for that, we'll get that all in the show notes. So everybody check out the show notes for the links to where you can buy the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Chapters, and that'll be in paperback. Is it paperback or hardcover?
It's paperback and digitally.
And Kindle, yeah, because I have the Kindle version. So you can get a digital or old school. And
old school.
Yeah, you guys, I'm not just saying this. You need to get this book. Everyone listening, you need to get this book. Especially, this is the perfect time right now where we can't be racing to be reading about it. So, Brock, I thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been fun talking with you.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you for asking.
Alrighty, that concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Lindsay Hiken, and my co-host, Mike Ergo. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, as this really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this little venture. And of course, if you have friends you think might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.